Smithy, Raymond, Guerin, Guillen, Unchia, Turner, Metcalf, Dean, Slauson, Spiller. There's quorum.
Quorum is present. Due to the number of witnesses registered to testify today, we'll be limiting testimony to 2 minutes for each witness that testifies during public testimony period. As a reminder, all that plan to testify, please ensure that you are registered through the electronic witness affirmation system that is located on the tablets in the hallway. If you're having trouble registering, please see our assistant clerk, Isabella Huerta. She will assist you. Please also remember that when you testify in front of our committees, you are testifying under oath and are required to testify fully and truthfully. Today's hearing is also being live streamed on the House website, www.house.texas.gov/video-audio. Members of the public wishing to submit comments in today's hearing may do so through the public portal until the hearing is adjourned. Pursuant to House Rule 4, Section 20B and the standard electronic public comment process established by the Committee on House Administration, all public comments submitted through the portal will be posted on TLIS, TLO, and the House website after the comment period is closed. Directions of how to submit public comments on the portal can be found on today's hearing notice. Thank you, members, and for those that are here, let me make sure you understand how we're proceeding. You're in this stage of session where we are in a morning meeting. The session starts at 10. If we are not finished, we will stop before 10, and then you will be on call like the rest of us until we get back here. And I have to alert you, it could be very, very late. So the hint is to be judicious. So, what is Greg's? The chair lays out HB 139 and recognizes Representative Click to explain her bill.
Good morning, everyone. House Bill 139 requires state agencies to notify the primary author and primary sponsor of legislation when their bills go into rulemaking within 4 years of passage. It also adds language to rulemaking notices noting if the rules are the result of legislation. House Bill 139 makes sure that lawmakers know when their bills are being interpreted by state agencies to make sure legislation is implemented the way they intended. I've requested a committee substitute to clarify the notice requirements and that notice is only required to the primary sponsor of the legislation. I'm open for any questions and reserve the right to close.
Any questions, member? Thank you. We'll give you the right to close. We have no registrations. Members, anyone else who wish to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Representative Click to close on her bill.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more frustrating than heavily negotiating legislation and then have an agency come and make rules that are diametrically opposed to your intent. I hope you'll give this favorable consideration and hope we can get it on local and consent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Chair moves to leave HB 139 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 139 is left pending. Let's have Will. Members, I'm going to turn the chair over to Chairman Metcalf.
The chair lays out House Bill 4440 and recognizes Chairman Hunter to explain his bill.
Thank you, Chairman Metcalf and members. Under current law, there is no statutory provision dedicated to governance as it specifically relates to a pandemic disaster. However, as we learned during COVID, responding to pandemics requires a markedly different process than responding to other natural disasters currently covered under Chapter 418 of the Government Code. 4440 better positions the state to respond to future pandemics in several key ways. One, it creates a pandemic disaster legislative oversight committee, also creates a new emergency response statute, Provisions of 418A seek to strike a balance between ensuring state and local governments have the ability to properly respond to a pandemic. Newly added statute outlines a process for pandemic disaster mitigation. It also ensures that to the extent possible, any ongoing response to efforts to not harm businesses or prevent access to medical treatments. Where's the closing of the page? And the bill does not allow the closing of the beaches. Just want to make sure everybody heard that during this session. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll reserve my right to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, any questions? Representative Raymond.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Chairman, are you sort of envisioning this kind of the similar role that the LBB plays during the interim?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to witnesses. We show no witnesses. If not, Chair recognizes Chairman Hunter to close on his bill.
Close.
Thank you, Chairman Hunter. The Chair moves that we leave House Bill 4440 pending at this time. Is there objection? Hearing none, House Bill 4440 is left pending.
Thank you, Chairman Metcalf. Chair lays out HB 4996 and recognizes Representative Bell to explain his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 4996. Cybersecurity threats have regrettably become the new norm, and the risk can be daunting even for the most sophisticated prevention software available. When a breach compromises critical data and sensitive and personal information, the mitigation that follows becomes paramount. When the Department of Information Resources collects cyber data, it does so for state leaders to determine how to best use that information to prevent and mitigate threats to the state. But an important next step is to instruct the IR and the State Office of Risk Management to test to determine the viability of cybersecurity insurance for the state. Cybersecurity insurance is an essential tool utilized by thousands of private businesses and governmental entities to minimize financial risk to any organization, including organizations like the state agencies in Texas. HB 4996 allows DIR to assess every state agency and then use that information to determine the risk-return ratio for utilizing cyber insurance as a risk management tool for the state. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I believe there are resource witnesses available if you need them, and respectfully request the right to close.
Any questions, members? Thank you. We give you the right to close. Members, we have no witnesses, just resource. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, Representative Bell to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I respectfully request that this bill be reported favorably. Greatly appreciate your time, and I close.
Thank you very much. Representative Bell, the chair moves to leave HB 4996 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 4996 is left pending. How many people? Chair lays out HB 5005 and recognizes Representative Cook to explain his bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, this bill was brought to me by the Arlington PD. In Section 552.130 of the Government Code, vehicle license plates captured on video are considered confidential despite being readily available on roadways throughout Texas. Law enforcement agencies across Texas are unnecessarily having to spend numerous hours redacting vehicle license plates from police dash cam, body cam, and building surveillance footage. HB 5005 simply removes this requirement, amends Section 552.130 of the Government Code and Section 730.007 of the Transportation Code to clarify that license plates captured in law enforcement video footage are not considered confidential, are not required to be redacted, and may be disclosed upon a Public Information Act. Would request your favorable consideration. I'm available for any questions and I would like an opportunity to close when appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions, members? Thank you. We'll give you the right to close.
Thank you, sir.
Members, we have no witness registrations at this time. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, we give you the right to close.
Unless there's any questions, I close.
Thank you very much, Representative Cook. Chair moves to leave HB 5005 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 5005 is left pending. Chair lays out HB 4789, recognizing Representative Anchita explaining his bill. The chair offers a committee substitute to HB 4789.
Thank you, Chairman Hunter. This bill relates to the switching from diesel buses to electric buses. They can save school districts as much as $170,000 per bus in fuel and maintenance costs over the lifetime of the vehicle. These funds obviously could be used to support student education, and additionally, electric school buses protect children from developing respiratory illnesses caused by diesel emissions. And this is a pretty staggering statistic. Mr. Chairman, the American Lung Association has found that a child riding inside a diesel school bus may be exposed to 4 times the level of toxic diesel exhaust as a person riding in a car next to it. So House Bill 4789 enhances affordability to the current program by extending contract terms from 10 to 15 years, which is usually the amortization period of financing or leasing these electric buses. It's entirely permissive on the school district, but it allows the use of TERP grant funds for electric vehicle charging station infrastructure as well, and directs the PUC to prioritize projects that achieve the greatest diesel exhaust reductions, especially particulate matter. And lastly, the bill ensures that utilities, transmission, and distribution service providers and retail electric providers provide schools with time of use rates to promote efficient charging at low rates to school districts. And with that, I would humbly ask the chairman for the opportunity to close.
Thank you. Members, any questions? We'll give you the right to close. Claire Alford. Claire, we show you're with Highland Electric Fleets and Self for HB 4789. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead. You have 2 minutes.
All right. Chairman Hunter, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. My name is Claire Alford, and I am the Eastern Regional Manager on the Market Development Team at Highland Electric Fleets. And I live in Washington, D.C., but I was born and raised in Houston, so this is particularly special for me today. This is my first time up here testifying in front of a committee. A little about Highland. Our work centers around partnerships with municipalities and other governments to enable fleet electrification. In 2018, we recognized that communities wanted cleaner alternatives to diesel school buses, and major manufacturers were making good quality electric school buses right here in the U.S. But adoption was slow because vehicles cost more upfront, and the process of electrification felt too complicated and risky. It wasn't a technology problem, but rather a business model and accessibility problem. So we built a company designed to help address those specific challenges. We're now the largest buyer of electric school buses, all of which are made in the United States, and we have the largest project in North America in Montgomery County, Maryland. Most importantly for us, as Representative Anchita pointed out, this bill extends the allowable lease term in the state from 10 to 15 years for electric school buses. The shorter a lease term is for a vehicle, the higher the lease payments. And because electric school buses cost more upfront, the effect of this compressed 10-year period on annual payments is particularly pronounced. Additionally, as Representative Anchita pointed out, this bill makes necessary changes to the TCEQ's Clean School Bus Program and requires electric utilities in the state to offer time of use rates. With that, thank you, members of the committee, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Thank you very much. Matthew Bombs. Matthew, we show you're with Texas Advanced Energy Business Alliance for HB 4789. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Good morning, Chairman Hunter, distinguished committee members. I'm Matt Bombs, Executive Director of TABA, the Texas Advanced Energy Business Alliance. Our mission is to promote advanced energy technologies, lower consumer costs, and create clean, reliable energy jobs. Today, I'm here to strongly support HB 4789, a bill that encourages Texas public schools to adopt electric school buses through the Texas Clean School Bus Program. This bill updates the program in an effort to attract more school districts to participate. HB 4789 extends the maximum lease term for buses from 10 to 15 years, which reduces annual payments and spreads out the cost of new buses over a long period of time. It also expands the program to cover charging infrastructure. There are many benefits to electric school buses. Switching to electric can save districts up to $170,000 per bus over its lifetime. It can also improve public health by reducing air pollution. Children on diesel buses are exposed to 4 times more toxic exhaust than those in cars, and electric buses can protect them during their daily trips to school, which can amount to over 120 hours per year. To ensure the full benefits of this technology and its cost savings, charging infrastructure will be critical. HB 4789 includes a provision to support the installation of charging infrastructure for electric school buses. In conclusion, TABA strongly supports HB 4789, and we urge this committee to pass it without delay. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you very much. Please note Representative Spiller and Representative Smithy are present. Cyrus Reed. Cyrus, we show you're with Lone Star Chapter Sierra Club 4, HB 4789. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right ahead.
So, air quality, important. Dallas doesn't meet the ozone standards. EPA is coming out with new PM 2.5 standards, and this bill will help on air quality. So we support it. Second, resource adequacy. You didn't know, Chairman Anchia, maybe you're not a chairman right now, I'm not sure. I'll call you chairman. You used to be a chairman. Chairman Anchia.
Everybody is a chairman.
Everyone's a chairman on your committee, yeah. You didn't know this, but this is a resource adequacy bill as well. Why? Because you're allowing electric school buses to have a time of use rate, which means they can charge at night when the electric prices are cheaper, and then be used during the day. And
They can be used as batteries.
and they can be used, it's my 2 minutes. And they can be used as batteries with vehicle to grid technology as that gets better. And for the 3 months that those school buses may not be operating, we can actually use them as backup power or a resource adequacy tool. So we really like this bill and hope you guys will pass it for clean air, for school kids, and for resource adequacy, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Reyna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. It's a great bill, and I'm very glad that we're hearing it, and I hope it passes, and I'll vote for it. But I want to ask the witness if he thinks it's effective as an advocate, the advocate that you are, to come and testify in front of us. And when we don't agree with your position, do you think it's effective to go tweet and criticize us for it?
That's a good, so that you're asking me a question not about this bill, but about a different
I'm
bill?
asking about this and any other
Yeah.
bill. Do you think that's an effective way to advocate for bills?
Happy to talk to you about that tweet.
Does that mean yes
at a
or
later
no?
time. I think it's important that people are
Does that mean
aware.
yes or no?
I think it can be effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, you keep
And I'm
on
happy to
criticizing.
talk to you about
Then
that.
you keep on tweeting and criticizing us when we don't agree with you, okay? But how about tweeting and commending us when we do agree with you? How about that?
I try to do both.
Well, you haven't with me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, members. Any questions? Please note Representative Chairman Thompson is present. Thank you very much, Cyrus.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses? No, members, we don't have any other witness registration. Anybody else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? If not, Chair recognizes Representative Anchia to close on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, under the school bus program, there are a number of different uses for this money. This simply adds the replacement or conversion of eligible diesel buses with electric buses. The market's moving in this direction, and I think this makes a lot of sense for the health and safety of school kids. I appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cheney. The chair moves to withdraw the committee substitute to HB 4789. Leave the bill pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 4789 is left pending. Okay, we go to me. Yeah, we got her. We always note Chairman Thompson. Turning the gavel over to Representative Smithy.
At this time, the chair would lay out House Bill 3262 and recognize Chairman Hunter.
Thank you, Representative Smithy and members. What this is, members, this is the mass gatherings bill. As you know, we've had an incident that has caused some special groups to start meeting. We've been working with fire, police, emergency management. We've been working with the cities. And I will tell you that there's still some, and the rodeos. And I've been working with Speaker Guerin. We're going to place the rodeo information in the product. There is still some work on this. We have a couple of witnesses that would like to give you an overview. And then I'll be working with the committee and the groups with the final language. But this is, if you remember the tragedy that occurred, and there was a formation of a task force on concert safety, and everybody's been working hard on trying to come up with some common sense goals. But I do want to let you know what we're presenting today. We'll have more information, which I'll get to the committee. So at that time, I'll reserve the right to close and get the couple of witnesses up here.
Okay, we do need to recognize that Representative Guillen is present. And also, members, are there any questions for Chairman Hunter? If not, and note that Representative Slauson is present as well. If there's no questions, we'll proceed to testimony. We have Samuel Pena.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Sam Payne.
You have to state his name.
Oh, if you will tell us your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
You just say your name, Samuel Pena, City.
Your name, Samuel Pena. You're for the bill, and you're representing the city of Houston.
Neutral.
Oh, you're neutral. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Sam Pena. I'm the fire chief for the city of Houston, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on House Bill 3262. Recently, the city of Houston enacted a city ordinance to regulate certain mass gathering events, whether on public or private property. And we entered into an interlocal agreement with our county partners to close a jurisdictional gap that existed. We appreciate the chairman's respect for the ordinance. We have shared it with his committee in hopes that we can improve special events throughout the state. What we found was that the greatest threat facing the production of these events came not from the external sources such as weather issues. Rather, the common thread was a limited knowledge and planning for life safety by these producers. So we've been in communication again with Chairman Hunter. We had positive conversations regarding House Bill 3262, and we look forward to the developing language and partnerships to build a tool really that'll keep and ensure safer events statewide. Thank you.
Any questions, members? Okay, Ms. Pena, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We need to recognize that our Vice Chair Hernandez is present. Anyone else here to testify for, against, or on House Bill 32?
There he is. Noah Wexler.
Okay. Noah Wexler. Mr. Wexler, we have you testifying for the bill, and you're representing Pink Bows Foundation.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Hunter and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Noah Wexler. I am here for HB 3262 as a representative of the Pink Bows Foundation, a foundation that was set up in the memory and honor of Madison Dubisky, who I also have the privilege and honor of representing her family, along with the Shahani family, one of the 10 victims at the Astro World Festival. I'd like to start by thanking Chairman Hunter, along with the special group that you've put together, and the governor's task force for the work that's been performed so far to move forward in the right direction in response to what was an unjustifiable tragedy. I also want to thank Chief Pena for being here. I agree with his sentiment. This is a circumstance that with better planning, better foresight, can certainly be avoided in the future. And taking a look at what we have on the books and trying to modify that to empower those that are issuing permits and dealing with permits will allow the experts in this area in live music and entertainment to demonstrate that they have the proper planning in place, the proper personnel in place, and they've done so with enough time to take into consideration the unique aspects of wherever this event may be held. One similarity amongst the families that I've had the opportunity to meet with that suffered this undeniable and tragic loss is that when they talk about their family members, they tell me about the silence in their homes, the sight of a made bed in an empty room, a constant ache when they see other families' children growing up and succeeding, and it's simply a loss that shakes the foundation of these families. This is a circumstance that, had there been better planning, I think this would have been avoided, and I appreciate this bill being put forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Mr. Anchia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really two questions. I know that we have a set of recommendations from the governor's task force, but and I know some of those are going to be incorporated here, but putting that aside, what went systematically wrong here? We've heard from the chief, the fire chief here. In your view, what went systematically wrong? And number two, if this bill had been in place, do you think we would have been able to avoid the tragedy?
Thank you for those questions. Because of some of the publicity orders in the case that I'm involved with, I'm not able to talk specifically about this event and what we believe went wrong that day. But I think with live music or sporting events generally, having restrictions and permitting requirements in place that have to be satisfied well in advance of a festival or a concert is important because it allows the opportunity to come forward, discuss issues that may arise, and have time to make adjustments instead of carrying things out on the day of a festival or the day before a festival, which is going to lead to a disaster.
Sounds reasonable. And thanks for what you're doing with the foundation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? If not, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to testify for, against, or on House Bill 3262? Seeing no one, Chair recognizes Representative Chairman Hunter to close.
Close.
Okay. And with that, the chair moves to leave House Bill 3262 pending at this time. Any objection? Hearing none, House Bill 3262 is left pending. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chairman Smithy. Chair lays out HB 2698 and recognizes Chairman Guillen to explain his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, research has shown that an estimated 20 veterans take their own life every day. Of that number, 14 are not registered with the Department of Veteran Affairs, and therefore lack of access to health care and counseling. And therefore, there's a lack of access to health care and counseling. Texas is home to more than 1.5 million veterans and loses nearly 500 veterans each year to suicide. These startling statistics are largely thought to be a result of insufficient information available to veterans who are struggling with their mental health and PTSD. However, resources do in fact exist and can be easily accessed with the right information. The National Suicide Prevention and the Veterans Crisis Lines are free confidential sources of support that are available. House Bill 2698 directs state agencies to prominently post on their websites the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the Veterans Crisis Line links. This is a simple, cost-effective effort that'll better connect our veterans with tools that may very well save their life. I can answer any questions if you don't have any.
Members, any questions? Thank you very much. We will go to and let you have the right to close. We'll call the witnesses. Stephen Price. Stephen, we show that you've registered on behalf of the Voices of Our Veterans and Self for HB 2698. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. Mr. Guillen, Mr. Raymond, my friends from San Antonio, and my veteran advocates. I am here in total support of this bill, not only on behalf of our veterans, because I do represent our veterans, and I know you all know it's 18 to 20. It should be a common number to most of you now that 18 to 20 veterans are taking their lives every day in this country. That happens to be maybe 4% of the national population or the state population that commits suicide. 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, almost half are veterans that are either committing suicide or they're taking drugs, drinking alcohol, and slowly killing themselves through suicide. So, what's the answer? There's a silent war going on here in America. I've read and watched some videos by Sebastian Younger, who was embedded in Afghanistan, and he said that what's going on here is we have a lonely society. Americans, and because of technology, we find ourselves alone a lot of times now dealing with the television or what have you, the internet, and spending much more time alone. We don't socialize as much as we used to face-to-face. That lack of face-to-face communications leads to loneliness and isolation. It has a devastating effect on our veterans that have PTSD and loneliness, and those like myself that have personal injuries or disabilities that when you sit alone and fight this battle alone, it is a silent war. So those of us that understand what's going on with our veterans, understand that this lonely society needs help. There's an old paradigm, if you'd please yield time, Mr. Chairman, due to the fact that
We're strict to 2 minutes, so
okay,
go
so
right ahead.
Don't ask, don't tell no longer exist. We have to ask. We have to tell. We call it a buddy check in the military. Okay, social media is a way to outreach and to help us break the silence about the suicide epidemic that we have in this nation and the lonely society that we're dealing with.
Thank you, sir, and it was very good.
Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, member? Thank you so much, sir.
No questions?
All right.
Again? Thank you, sir.
No more. Members, other than Mr. Price, that was all the registrations. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on, for, or against the bill? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Chairman Gann to close.
I close. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Gann. The chair moves to leave HB 2698 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing it none, HB 2698 is left pending. Chair lays out HB 4952 and recognizes Representative Slauson to explain her bill. The chair offers committee substitute HB 4952.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. HB 4952 seeks to improve and further protect the physical security of critical facilities on the Texas grid through a greater partnership between our utilities and state law enforcement resources. As the threats from foreign and domestic actors continue to expose vulnerabilities to critical infrastructure, 4952 is set to be the example to the nation on how to best partner with utilities to properly provide for a force multiplier of resources to protect the most important critical assets on the grid. More simply put, 4952 allows the state of Texas to help utilities respond to and protect the critical facilities in the event of an attack. 4952 in its current form requires utilities with critical facilities whose inoperability in the event of an attack would result in catastrophic consequences to confidentially share certain information with appropriate state personnel to allow for that force multiplier response. The substitute allows for the sharing of certain information with the chair of the Electricity Supply Chain Mapping Committee, which houses the most sensitive information regarding Texas critical infrastructure, to then engage local law enforcement to further strengthen Texas' defensive posture and respond in the event of an attack. I want our utility partners to know that my door is still open for further changes. It's our aim to achieve our strategic goal here while respecting that there is sensitive and proprietary information that's held by the utilities. But I think we can all agree that as the threats from bad actors, foreign and domestic, continue to rise, it will take all of us in an all-hands-on-deck approach to protecting that critical infrastructure. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would yield for questions and request a right to close.
Any questions? You'll have the right to close. Mark Bell, Association of Electric Companies of Texas. Mark, we have you registered on behalf of the Association of Electric Companies of Texas, neutral on HB 4952. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mark Bell on behalf of the Association of Electric Companies of Texas. I'm here to testify on House Bill 4952. Infrastructure security is one of our company's biggest concerns. It's part of our core principles, mitigating supply chain risks, supporting reliable electric operations, and vigilantly defending against cyber and physical attacks. Our companies file emergency operation plans with the Public Utility Commission, and we work closely with local, state, and federal law enforcement. We appreciate the author working with us on House Bill 4952. We still have some concerns that this bill would result in the creation of a centralized location for this critical infrastructure information, and could be in conflict with the security protocols administered by the North American Electric Reliability Council, or NERC, which administers the federal requirements of electric grids like ERCOT. We share the same goal of keeping the infrastructure, grid infrastructure safe, and we look forward to continuing our work with the author to resolve these concerns. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. There are no other witness affirmations. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Representative Slauson to close.
Thank you. I close.
Thank you, Representative. The chair moves to withdraw the committee substitute in HB 4952 and leave the bill pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 4952 is left pending. Chair lays out HB 3078, recognizes Vice Chair Hernandez to explain her bill.
Thank you, Chairman Hunter and members. House Bill 3078 would establish an assistance fund to sponsor state programs that assist qualifying low-income individuals in paying for their home energy expenses. After deregulation of the Texas electricity retail market in 1999, Texas created a System Benefit Fund, SBF, to assist certain low-income consumers with paying for electricity utility expenses. SBF was funded through a non-bypassable fee of 60 cents per megawatt hour. As a result, the Light of Texas program began in 2002 to distribute a 10% discount to qualified customers on their electric utility bills. Unfortunately, after the collection of the non-bypassable fee ended in 2013 and consumers stopped receiving discounts in 2016. In 2022, the average cost of residential electricity in Texas was 13.9 cents per kilowatt hour, which was an 18% increase from 2021. The depletion of the SBF and an increase in energy demand and cost of electricity have resulted in consumers turning to federal utility assistance programs, such as the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. Federal funding for these programs is limited, and there is often a wait list. These factors merit the creation of another state income-based assistance fund from home energy expenses to meet the overwhelming needs of low-income Texans. This bill would create more options for low-qualifying income Texans to receive assistance in paying for their electric utility. The committee, this bill will establish a framework needed to create an assistance fund to create qualifying low-income individuals in paying for their home energy expenses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I reserve the right to close.
Any questions? Thank you. We'll give you the right to close. Julia Harvey. Julia, we have you with the Texas Electric Cooperatives neutral on HB 3078. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, members. For the record, I'm Julia Harvey on behalf of Texas Electric Cooperatives, testifying on House Bill 3078. So co-ops serve in all but one of the 35 persistent poverty counties in Texas. We support low-income assistance, but our position is that any low-income program that's effectuated with public funding needs to be statewide and not limited to areas with retail competition as set forth in the bill. So our consumers are similarly deserving of assistance regardless of whether they live in or out of ERCOT or whether they've adopted retail choice. And as you know, this issue has been compounded for many co-op consumers because of the cost of Winter Storm Uri. So, Vice Chair, again, we agree with the need for a low-income program, but we believe the program should accommodate all Texans who are struggling with their power bills, and we hope to get to work with you on this. Thank you. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions, members? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cyrus Reed. Cyrus, we show you registered Lone Star Chapter Sierra Club 4HB 3078. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right ahead.
Cyrus Reed, Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club. I have two handouts. I don't expect you to read them. The first you've seen before. It's just a sign-on letter from a number of organizations that are supporting solutions that help customers. So whether that be energy efficiency or low-income payment assistance, there's a group of about 45 organizations that are supporting those approaches. And specifically, I'm here to support HB 3078. I believe we're on the bill and not on the committee substitute, if that's correct, as filed. So ERCOT prices are going up, and they're going up not only from the Winter Storm Uri aftermath, they're going up because gas prices have gone up. They're going up because we're operating in a more conservative fashion with more ancillary services. And as you know, the PUC is in the process of upping the cost of the ORDC, which ultimately goes down to residential consumers who are feeling the burden. What HB 3078 does is recreate a program similar to the System Benefit Fund. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar, and creates the framework so that if and when the legislature wishes to appropriate money to that GR dedicated fund that the PUC can operate, folks who are struggling, medically vulnerable folks, disabled, low-income folks, can have access to some payment assistance so they're not disconnected, and also some targeted energy efficiency programs that are run by the utilities. So we think, given the fact that we used to have a program and we don't have one now, and yes, there are some federal funding and there are some utility programs, but this would help fill in that gap. And obviously, we would still need the legislature to appropriate money. This does not create a non-bypassable fee. It just says, if you guys, in your wisdom, wish to set aside some money for this program, you can do that. And then Texans who have energy burdens can then take advantage.
And we show you're for the bill.
Very much for the bill.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kenneth Flippen. Kenneth Flippen. Kenneth Flippen. Show that Kenneth, registered U.S. Green Building Council, Texas, and chapter and self. Kenneth Flippen. Kenneth, we have you registered for U.S. Green Building Council, Texas, chapter and self, 4HB 3078. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
I'm sorry, I ran from another committee, so I'm sorry for being out of breath. We just want to express our support for the bill. Not only do we need this program because of what was stated before about low income, but also it will support programs that create energy efficiency. Excuse me again. And that's really important because that's also going to take energy off of our grid, and especially in the homes that are most needed, because low-income homes, excuse me again. Sorry.
Notice the atmosphere you've given.
Thank you. Thank you for the second. Again, because low-income homes are the ones that tend to have the most energy usage when they're the most inefficient. And so helping out these people will help the homes that are going to benefit the most from these energy efficiency programs.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Kenneth, and thank you for coming.
Thank
you. Members, there's no other witnesses registered. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on, for, or against the bill? If not, Chair recognizes Vice Chair Hernandez close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I close.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The Chair moves to leave HB 3078 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 3078 is left pending. Chair lays out HB 3327, recognizes Representative Wu to explain his bill.
Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Chairman. This is really simple. We have a big list of public servants who are able to shield their personal information on their property records for personal safety reasons. We're asking that public prosecutors, public defenders be included along with public prosecutors to have the ability to hide their personal information on the public records. It simply is that, especially on high-profile cases, we've had public defenders getting death threats, people threatening people's families, and we know where you live, because they actually do know where they live because they look them up. And that's it. We just want to give them the option of doing that just like everyone else, because the world is a crazy place and there's a lot of people who want to do harm to people who are in the public realm. That's it.
Thank you, member. Any questions? Thank you. We'll give you the right to close.
Thank you.
Ted Wood. Ted, we have you with Harris County Public Defender's Office for HB 3327. Is that correct?
That is all correct.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Hunter, and many thanks to Representative Jean Wu for carrying this bill at the Public Defender's Office. We do appreciate it. There are certain high-profile cases, especially where certain public defenders or employees of our office feel threatened. And there'll be a couple witnesses who'll give you some personal examples of that. But this bill, as Representative Wu said, is very simple. It simply adds a 27th category of public servants, if you will, to the long list of people who are already able to take advantage of making their home address and name information private. So already on that list are all public elected officials, prosecutors, judges, federal public defenders. For some reason, state public defenders have just never been on the list, and we respectfully ask that you advance this bill on and allow us to be added to the list.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Angela Cameron. Angela, we show you at the Harris County Public Defender Office for HB 3327. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this with you. This bill is going to provide safety and peace of mind. I want to tell you about a client of mine. First time I met him, I'm an appellate lawyer, so they've already been convicted. He was very angry with his trial lawyer. His trial lawyer didn't do his job. First time I met this individual, he looked at me, he said, "Miss Cameron, you live in this part of town, and you shop at Kroger on such and such street with the exact address, and Miss Cameron, you have 3 daughters. They're all blonde, and they're about this size, and this size. I'm guessing they're 10, 8, and 5. He was dead on. This man was convicted of killing his wife 5 miles from my home. He has a photographic memory. I check his parole date every year. I am afraid that this man's going to show up when my kids get off the bus alone because I'm at work. As a woman, I can't just take my name off the deed because Cameron, it's not Smith. He can still find it under my husband's name. I ask that you support this bill.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you so much. Allison Mathis. Allison, we show you're here for yourself for HB 3327. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. In early 2021, I had a really great year. I had been a career public defender for about 8 years at that point, and I had just had my second baby, my son, John, and my husband and I had just bought a house.
I also, as part of my job, the week after I came back from maternity leave, filed for a posthumous pardon on behalf of a client of mine who had been wrongfully convicted of possession of controlled substance in 2004. That client was George Floyd, who had already developed some notoriety in the press. As a result of my filing of that pardon application, I received numerous death threats on social media, and I received mail to my house and my office. That was not the first time in my career that what I do had caused concern for myself and my family. I frequently represent people who are unpopular, people who are notorious, and people who are seriously mentally ill. In addition to threats from members of the public for representing people that they didn't think deserved to have their rights preserved, I've also faced stalking and threats from my own clients. And I have additionally represented quite a few people who are on the wrong side of several major drug cartels. As of Friday, 2 of my clients had been actively kidnapped by cartels and were being held for ransom. I knew when I signed up to be a public defender that this job did not come without risk, but this risk of keeping my house and my name on the property tax appraisal registry is an unjustified one, and I'm asking that you give me the same protections that you yourselves enjoy as elected officials.
And you're for HB 3327?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Representative Chia has
Thank
a
you, Mr.
question.
Well,
Ma'am.
That's okay. Listen, I just want to say, as a member of the bar and someone who has not done the type of work that you've done in public service, I really appreciate what you do, and I'm grateful that you came to tell your story here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. Members, those are all the registrations we have. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Representative Wu to close.
Thank you so much. And I'll say that while I have not had that kind of experience in doing criminal defense work, I have had it done. I have had that experience in doing CPS work, where I had a client essentially stalk me 24/7, calling me 15, 20 times a day, just being upset at every single little thing and just looking me up. I can't imagine what it's like for public defenders who have to deal with this. And many times the people that they serve, they're trying to do the best job for them, but those people sometimes have mental health issues. And any level of protection that our body can provide to public defenders, along with the giant list of other public servants that we have already in law, would be greatly appreciated. And I would ask the committee to send this out to local consent.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you very much. Thank you, Representative Wood. True moves to leave HB 3327 pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 3327 left pending.
Thank you.
Members, the chair lays out HB 4903 and recognizes Representative D'Orazio. Explain his bill. The chair offers a committee substitute to HB 4903. And so everybody is aware this is the last bill on the calendar. Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to lay out this bill. Gold is a unique strategic asset which has stood the test of time for thousands of years. When you think about it, not many assets have enjoyed that reputation. Today, on every continent, precious metals remain popular, from the common man to the wealthy to royalty. In my district, people have asked me about the purchase of gold due to inflation. And the nagging question is, how do I use gold to purchase goods and services that I may need at the moment in time? Texas was smart enough a few years ago to set up its own bullion depository right here in the state of Texas. By working with the comptroller, we can establish a digital representation of gold and allow citizens to engage in transactions through a debit card type system. This is already being done in the world today. It's called Glint. It has real value, but we don't have the difficulty of handling real gold. HB 4903 will give us a real medium of exchange, gold-based, established in Texas and available in Texas. Let me tell you about the bill. I'll be presenting the committee substitute. House Bill 4903 uses definition of bullion and specie as defined by the Government Code, Chapter 2116, established under the 84th Legislature's House Bill 483 by Giovanni Capriglione, which created the Texas Bullion Depository to add new terms of digital currency and pooled depository account. In particular, digital currency is defined to be digital representation of physical gold and silver specie and bullion held in the pooled depository account. Digital currency would represent fractionalized units of physical gold and silver held in the depository account by a depositor or Texas coinage as authorized by Section 10, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. The comptroller would be authorized to establish and provide for the issuance specie or coinage and establish and issue the digital currency as determined practicable. The comptroller may contract with a private vendor to establish the coinage and digital currency or perform other duties under this chapter. To the extent consistent with state and federal law, the comptroller shall give preference to a vendor whose principal place of business is in Texas. The Texas Bullion Depository and HB 4903 would exclusively authorize the issuance of specie and ensure that the holder of such specie could use it as legal tender in payment of debt and readily transferable to any other person. The comptroller would provide means to ensure that a person who holds digital currency may use such legal tender in payment of debt and regularly transfer or assign the digital currency to another person by electronic means. A trustee, either the comptroller or a person he appoints, would hold in trust all specie and bullion owned or purchased for such purposes and maintain enough specie or bullion to provide for the redemption of all units of the digital currency issued but not redeemed. A person of the United States could be issued their digital currency by the comptroller upon making payment for the purchase of specie or bullion to be represented by the digital currency or by designating the specie or bullion held on account in the Texas Bullion Depository for such purpose. Upon receiving payment or an account holder's designation in payment, the comptroller would buy specie or bullion in the number of fractional troy ounces of precious metal equal to the number of units of the digital currency to be issued to the purchaser and deposit such specie or bullion into the pooled depository account for the purchaser. The comptroller would issue to the purchaser an account or add to an existing account the number of units of the digital currency equal to the amount of specie or bullion that the purchase money received from the account holder would buy at market price on the date as published by the Texas Bullion Depository. A person who holds digital currency could present any number of units of the digital currency to redeem for U.S. dollars, and on receipt of a person's request for redemption, the comptroller would sell from the specie or bullion held in the pool depository account a number of troy ounces equal to the number of units of the digital currency being redeemed and provide to the person the amount of U.S. dollars equal to the amount received from the sale of the specie or bullion. A person who holds digital currency could present any number of units of digital currency to redeem for specie or bullion, and on the receipt of the person's request for redemption and payment of fee, the comptroller would deliver the specie or bullion in the number of troy ounces equal to the number of units of the digital currency being redeemed to the requester. At the time the digital currency is transacted or redeemed, the comptroller shall determine the value of a unit of the digital currency as published by the Texas Bullion Depository. The value of a unit of the digital currency at the time of the transaction must equal the value of the appropriate fraction of a troy ounce of gold or silver the time of that transaction as published by the Texas Bullion Depository. Money received from the specie or bullion purchased and deposited in the pooled depository account, and money received from the sale of specie or bullion in the pooled depository account in response to a request for redemption is held by the trustee outside the state treasury on behalf of persons who hold digital currency and not available for legislative appropriation. The comptroller may establish a fee for the issuance or redemption of the digital currency to cover the comptroller's cost in administering this chapter and the industry standard merchant fee for use. The comptroller shall deposit the net fee proceeds after the cost to the credit of an account established in the General Revenue Fund.
Thank you, sir. Representative Raymond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So You may have said in your opening, and I may have missed it, so I want to ask, do any other states have anything like this set up already?
One of our
I
experts.
got your letter about Oklahoma being kind of interested, right, but.
Texas is the only state that has its own bullion depository. Utah has established gold and silver as legal tender. I think Alabama just recently established gold and silver, and I think 2 other states. One of our expert testimony, Kevin Freeman, he can speak at depth into that issue.
Okay, and do you know, with all that's been happening with cryptocurrency, did that kind of help inspire this as a more secure way, maybe, of, because crypto is going up, has gone up and down, so.
And again, they can speak better, but cryptocurrency is fiat. Fiat means let there be.
Yeah.
The only person who said let there be at the beginning of creation was God. And he spoke it, and he spoke it into existence.
But did he say it in English?
No, I think it was Spanish. And this is gold and silver.
Right.
It has to be in the bullion depository before anybody can draw against it.
And forgive me for not knowing, and if you don't, that's fine, but do we, you know, the U.S. government used to make silver dollars. I think that stopped in the 60s or something, but do we know if the U.S. government owns like substantial amounts of silver or gold? Do you have any idea if we have, if at the federal level, if there's some kind of repository of gold or something?
From my knowledge, the United States still owns the largest gold depository in the world. I think we have in Fort Knox or other places over 8,000 tons. So gold is still the standard for the world. Actually, some very interesting information. In the first Kuwaiti War, when George H.W. went in, the Brits, whenever they went in, and the SSS troops, they were issued belts with the British sovereign gold coins on their person. And in case they were in very difficult situations, especially in that area of the country, they could use those gold coins to bribe their way out of a situation. So it's still worldwide. It's still accepted worldwide.
And last thing I want to ask, do you know what gold is, well, just stick with the gold, what it's selling for these days?
Well, the last number that I had, about $2,000 an ounce.
An ounce or gram?
An ounce.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. We'll give you your right to close. Tom Glass?
Thank you.
Tom, we have you registered for Texas constitutional enforcement and sell for HB 4903. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Every day we read in the news about how more and more foreign governments are declining to use the dollar as a global currency or a global reserve, which means that there's going to be less demand for dollars as we go forward. And that's going to have a big impact on Texans and the United States. Because what happens when we lose reserve currency status, everything is going to go up. The dollar is going to decline in value against other currencies, and so it's going to cost us a lot more to import things, and so the prices are going to go up. We've already got inflation based on other factors that have happened, and so there's no reason to expect that we're not going to see inflation for a good number of years to come here in the United States. And so Texans need a way to protect their hard-earned wealth. Of course, gold and silver coin is a way to do that, but the thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't give you an easy way to conduct day-to-day business. Right now, if you want to protect wealth, pretty much by buying gold and silver, you're buying gold and silver coin as an investment or a store of value, and it's not as usable to go buy groceries the way most Texans need to do. And this option gives us the ability to do that. So we at Texas Constitutional Enforcement support it. Not everybody in my group supports this, by the way. They say, why should the Texas government get involved in competing with Glint, which is a private provider? Some of them distrust central bank digital currency, which is programmable and has all sorts of privacy and police state implications, that they don't want to see anything digital at all. I think that's going overboard. But the majority of us support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions? Thank you very much, Tom. Liz Case Pickens. Okay. Liz Case Pickens. Liz Case Pickens will show she registered on behalf of herself for HB 4903 but did not testify. Chris Byrd.
Chairman, I do have some handouts. Could I do that real quick?
You give this to the assistant clerk. Chris, we show you've registered for yourself for HB 4903. Is that correct?
That is correct,
right
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. Thank you. And good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Chris Byrd. I'm an attorney, CPA, and former National Bank Examiner with the Comptroller of the Currency. I offer testimony in favor of House Bill 4903 and respectfully ask you to vote this bill out of this committee. I provided you a copy of Section 2116, Representative DeRazio just spoke about, of the Texas Government Code. This is current law. It's also considered the Texas Bullion Depository Act, and behind the first tab is also just a courtesy copy of the accompanying analysis from House Bill 483, authored by the 84th Legislative Session and Representative Capriglione, who has also joint authored 4903. I share this with you because, in my view, this bill, 4903, is a complement to and an extension of Section 2116. It's also my view that the 84th Legislature not only acted on a vision for Texas citizenry, but plowed much of the ground, making House Bill 4903 timely and relevant as it draws inspiration and authority from Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution and Federalist Papers number 44. The highlights in your handout just simply indicate parallels to House Bill 4903. The bill authorizes the issue of gold and silver coinage as legal tender, and an account holder at the depository to simply be able to access their own gold and silver with a debit card as legal tender in everyday transactions, no different than the one that I suspect you have on your person. This action, I believe, is supported also by the Supreme Court ruling in 1837, which upheld the constitutionality of the Bank of Kentucky issuing banknotes.
We'll show that you're in favor
Yes, sir.
of 4903, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eric Jackson. Eric, we show you've registered for yourself for HB 4903, correct?
That's correct, Mr.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, committee members. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Eric Jackson. Very briefly on my background, I'm a financial technology executive and entrepreneur. I graduated from Stanford University with honors in economics. I was an early executive at PayPal back when that company was founded in the late 90s. I served as the head of U.S. marketing there from 99 through roughly the end of or middle of 2003. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started two different companies in fintech or financial technology, and I wrote the book, The PayPal Wars, which chronicles PayPal's early years. I'd like to speak very briefly about the interest in digital access to gold. This is something that's caught the popular imagination for quite a while. Back in the late 90s, there was a novel by Neal Stephenson called Cryptonomicon, which spelled out a fictitious way in which gold could be transacted digitally. That being said, even though it's caught the popular imagination, there's some clear reasons for that. Gold's obviously a store of value and medium of exchange, but it's really hard for the common man to get access to it. When you think about physical gold, there are logistical obstacles, the risk of theft or loss. ETFs are not a substitute for this. They're not redeemable for metal, and they're securities. So that's an entirely different type of animal. So, and the reason for this, there are real obstacles to U.S. companies being able to provide digital transactions in gold. Regulatory compliance makes it very hard. The risk of a digital asset being issued can be classified as a security, again, would undermine the point of having this be transactional. And there's also significant challenges for private entities providing adequate transparency and controls of their reserves. So that's why I think it could be very appropriate for a state to undertake this action. It would definitely benefit the common
Thank you,
man.
and we'll note you're for HB 4903.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Representative Raymond, let me make sure everybody knows they're adding to the witness list. And a little before 10, if we're not finished, we will stop. And I can't tell you when you'll be back, so you'll have to be on hold. So I just ask everybody, try to be judicious and not repetitious. Go right ahead, Representative Raymond.
Just a couple of questions, Chairman. Thank you. One, do you, and I should have asked the author, but how much has the price of gold fluctuated over the last, I don't know, 5 years, let's say, or pick a number, 2, 3, 5, 10 years?
I don't know that time range off the top of my head.
Okay, all right, if you don't. You were very involved in PayPal, you said. So what do you see here? I mean, obviously, those are good credentials, I think. What do you see here with reference to, the benefits, real benefits, if we were to set this up?
Well, I think part of the benefit is enabling the everyday man to be able to access gold and have that ability to purchase it, hold it, transact it with it if they determine they want to. We actually had a similar vision when PayPal was started. We wanted to build a system that could empower people to have greater control over their finances, so they could either have different fiat currencies or some asset like gold.
Well, you say access gold, but that's, I mean, I would assume, well, I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. But what is the advantage to having, more easy access to gold for the consumer? Is it, and that's why I started with the question, do you know how much the price has fluctuated? Do you think it's more stable, and so that's better, or what? I'm trying to figure out.
It's very valuable to have in your investment portfolio. It's a hedge against inflation. It moves in a different direction often than the stock market or real estate. So that's why that an asset like this has significant demand for retail investors and just everyday people. Think about all the interest in cryptocurrencies. Think about the number of people that got into Bitcoin and others, maybe not even understanding really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they undertook significant risk that they didn't understand as well. No one's really sure what the intrinsic value of anything like Bitcoin is. So having an alternative that's just as easily accessible as some cryptocurrency or something along those lines, but is actually legal and it's clear what you would be buying. You'd be buying gold. Would be very attractive.
Well, so in my mind, and I've talked a little bit to the author a little bit about this, but my sense of it is that maybe the driving force here is that it holds its value. I mean, when I was in college, one of the jobs I had was selling gold, like selling jewelry that was made of gold, and every day I had to check the market, I'd check the price, and that's how we decided how much to charge, right? But from then to now, which is a long time, it's held its value. So I'm wondering if that's not the driving force here, that this is something, an asset or almost like currency, but that holds its value. And maybe that's part of what we're talking about here and why it might be a good idea.
I think so, sir, because really when you think about the objectives of anything that is legal tender, a store of value as well as a medium of exchange are top of the list. So that ability to hold its value, to not be so highly correlated with other markets. You could argue that cryptocurrency was extremely influenced by monetary and fiscal policy. And this run-up in asset values impacted Bitcoin just like it did tech stocks and other assets. So having something that moves in a different direction, like you said, gold, which is universally known, accepted, and has been a key store of value across, really back since biblical times, I think is transparently valuable for people. And being able to own real gold but not have to go and find it in a physical form is also going to be very attractive for anyone that's interested in this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, members. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Catherine Novikov. Catherine, we have you registered for self for HB 4903, is that correct?
That's correct.
Go right ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I am the founder and former CEO of a payments company, a national payments company. We were on the Inc. 500 list for the period 07 to 09 during that terrible recession. And at the time of the sale of the company in 2016, we were processing over $2 billion in inbound and outbound electronic payments, similar to what would be done with this product through the Bill 4903. I believe that Texas has a very short window to grab this historic opportunity. Somebody once asked the legendary Wayne Gretzky, "What's the secret to your success on the ice?" Pardon? He's still alive. Yes, I correct myself. The legendary Wayne Gretzky. And he answered, "The secret to my success is easy. I just skate to where the puck is going to be." I believe that Texas has the opportunity to skate to where the puck is going to be, and that time is right now, and that there's an urgency to it. 6 months from now or 24 months from now, we're not going to have the opportunity to impact positively people's lives by giving them this option. And I would like to ask you to move this bill out of committee and help to get it passed promptly for 3 reasons. 1, it is responsive to the urgent needs of Texans for a way to brace against economic turmoil caused by inflation and caused by worldwide growing uncertainty. Secondly, it's responsive to the needs of those struggling most because they can access gold and silver in small increments, $10 a week, using this type of system that would be built. It will be as easy as buying a gift card or a money order. If done correctly, this bill is going...
Thank you, ma'am. We've got you down for HB 4903. Thank you very much. Lindsey Gramont. Lindsay, we have you registered for yourself, neutral on HB 4903. Is that correct?
I'd like to change that to for the bill.
Okay, hold on one second. So for the record, you're Lindsay Gramont.
Yes.
Registering for self.
Yes.
And you want us to change the witness affirmation from neutral to for HB 4903. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'll keep this very short and sweet. I echo what everyone else is saying. I am just a mom and did testify at both of the blockchain work group public hearings, and you can read about that in their report. But one of the recommendations they did make was to ensure, as a hedge against central bank digital currency, to have a store of value like gold backing a digital currency. And I agree that this would be a historical step for Texas to protect Texans against any kind of police state type activities and tracking. This would make it very simple to be able to access a currency and be able to use gold and for purchases, for things like that, much more easily. Right now, I mean, you could buy a brick of gold and shave off a little piece and try and barter with someone, but that's not really an effective way to use it. And everyone knows that it has value. I think everyone sitting here knows that. And this would be something that would really, really help a lot of Texans right now to be able to access gold in a much more much more important way. The only things that concern me would be that I would want to make sure this would not be a digital currency that was programmable. We wouldn't want to be able, as the state, to tell people, oh, you can only access this much if you're this kind of person, or you have this kind of job, or you believe these kinds of things. So I would want to ensure that we wouldn't create anything like that in this digital currency. It should just be very simple as it's laid out in the bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Representative Raymond.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate your testimony, but we're here, so I'm going to just tell you, saying police state activity probably doesn't really help, because the only police state activity I know of that affects, somebody's assets are usually illegal, like cartels and stuff like that. So just, I don't know if you've testified in the Senate already, but I wouldn't throw that out there. I don't think it really helps to say, we want this to offset police state activity.
Yeah,
That's
thank
just
you
a
for
suggestion.
your
Just a
comment.
suggestion.
No, I appreciate that, and I definitely recommend you read the blockchain work group paper if you haven't already, because it does describe some of what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ruth Forehand. Ruth, we have you registered for yourself for HB 4903. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I had listed on my registration, I'm a certified financial planner. I own my own wealth management firm. My entire career has been in wealth management and investments. To answer some of the questions that have previously been asked, one of the gentlemen here asked about the volatility of gold. Just this year, the week of SVB collapsing, gold was $1,830-ish an ounce. Through last week, we had seen it top out at $2,040. The reason I'm here, forgive me, I tend to talk really fast when I'm a little uptight and I'm under the clock. Gold is recognized as a store of value, which is one of the definitions of a currency. Currently, China has something called the gold-backed yuan. As recently as April 13th, the International Monetary Fund passed something called Unocoin. Unocoin is a central bank digital currency. That is e-cash. That is not currency. Gold is a hedge against inflation. Currently, there's a lot of debate about whether or not the dollar will retain its enjoyed status as a world reserve currency. Couple of facts. The dollar's share of total global reserves is now only 47%. In 2003, it was 66%. We currently have countries such as the United Arab Emirates, Iran, Qatar, and Yemen, who are currently transacting with China in the area of buying natural gas with their gold-backed yuans. To answer the question about the amount of gold that's currently been purchased, we're purchasing gold for a reserve for federal governments and central banks at a faster pace than 1967. Turkey recently purchased 30 tons.
Thank you, ma'am. And now, again, we're going to show you registered for yourself.
Yes, sir.
For HB 4903.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Cindy Castilla. Cindy, we have you here registered for Texas Eagle Forum and Self for HB 4903. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
Go right ahead.
So I'm speaking for Texas Eagle Forum just because I've spoken to some of our members and I know their demographics, but I've spoken to a lot of people on this bill because I got excited about it when I started researching it. So I'm really just giving a personal testimony, but knowing that people, all my neighbors, like this bill. So we're kind of small-time investors, and at one point I held about $20,000 in a gold fund, but I started thinking about that gold fund, and I don't know, some mutual funds borrow, they have in their ability to borrow, so your gold isn't really there. Per se, you know, I started thinking about where is my gold? I don't know. I finally just sold that fund, and we bought a few gold coins, which we have to traipse over to the bank and put in a safe deposit box and pay for that box. I love the idea of my state utilizing this great asset we have. Right now it does store gold, but in individual compartments, you know, for individual investors. I like that I could do a bulk purchase. I like that Texas could make a little money off the transaction fees. I believe that processors will line up to negotiate with Texas to be able to be the processors. I think that that's good for Texas. I think if if it caught on and people actually were transacting in their gold, maybe my taxes go down a little bit because Texas is bringing in some money on this asset that sits there that the taxpayers paid for. So I just see nothing but positive. Right now, my Visa and MasterCard fees go to San Francisco and Purchase New York. And I think it'd be really cool if we had or picked processors that were from Texas for this. I have no stake in any of that, but I know it's a good business. And I just appreciate you considering this bill. I would love to be able to, if I want to, transact in gold. If my gold's high and I don't want to sell a stock, I could get cash that way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Gregory Porter. Gregory, we have you registered for Texas for Liberty and Self, 4HB 4903. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Members, you guys have heard a lot of testimony already. I think just sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit bigger picture sometime, but countries that represent 95% of global GDP are going to issue a central bank digital currency over the course of the next 2 years, which is pretty significant. Speaking to the greater issue of China being able to purchase oil in yuan, I think the writing is on the wall, if you're following the trends, that the United States is not going to be able to continue to print unlimited amounts of money anymore. That game is over. And so the concern that I and many others have around central bank digital currencies is that they are perpetually going to inflate. And so I think it's very important. I'm also want to be very clear that I'm not speaking on behalf of cryptocurrency or digital currency. In fact, I was a little confused about my position when I read the bill, but the more I think about it, it provides a really important option for us to be able to choose a medium of exchange in our portfolio that might not deflate at the level of an unlimited new central bank digital currency that really has no backing. So I think it's a really unique opportunity as a state to have the bullion in place and to be able to issue something like that give us an opportunity to have a medium of exchange that has a fundamental basis of value that might not perpetually inflate, whether it's some portion of your holding in liquidity or not. And then the last thing that I just would like to say is, as a function of the digital currency, there is some benefit in having a digital exchange as opposed to just the physical gold, obviously, because gold is challenging sometimes to exchange in certain denominations. So from that perspective, I can see it. But this is really, really a rare and unique opportunity. I think it's a great bill. It's very sensible, and I would encourage the committee to support this moving forward to give Texans an option for another medium of exchange that might be protective of our assets and the money that we earn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Last witness we have, members, is Kevin Freeman. Now, Kevin, we have you registered for yourself for HB 4903. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I am Kevin Freeman. Next month will mark my 40th year in the investment management industry. I spent a decade working for Sir John Templeton. I understand global investments. I spent 4 years as a contracted consultant for the United States Department of Defense on global economic matters. I've testified to Congress. I've briefed admirals, generals, CIA, DIA, FBI. I want to make 4 critical points. The first is people are concerned about their finances. They want their state to help them. They're worried about inflation and the dollar. We have a bullion depository. We've heard about that. Well, not long ago, I had a client pass away. To execute her estate, we had to take rolls of gold coins from her safe that had a value of $50,000 and shop for a buyer. Ultimately, we had to mail them back to the company who sold them to her to get a proper valuation. That took 6 weeks, and 2 weeks later, we got a check for her estate. It was a long and cumbersome process. In the past month, there have been 4 major headlines appearing, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, and CNBC, that support the ideas of this bill. Well, I want to tell you, the Wall Street Journal's headline was, "How to buy gold is the top search term on Google." People want to know how to buy gold. HB 4903 gives an answer. My second point is shorter but equally important. I've studied the history of money and the Constitution. This is legal and constitutional. I've spoken with treasurers and governors and others in other states, Oklahoma, Utah, and so forth. They all believe Texas can be the gold capital of the world. My third point is this is economic justice. It gives poor people and middle class the same opportunities wealthy people to have to own gold. And my fourth point is that this would be good for Texas. It's self-financing, and the comptroller will find plenty of providers interested in this. The time for this is now. The demand has never been greater. The technology is here, and Texas is unique among states with the bullion depository. I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. No other witnesses, members, or anybody else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Representative Rossi to close on his bill.
Again, Mr. Chairman and committee members, I greatly appreciate your time and the opportunity to present this bill, and I close.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Raymond as a question.
Just real quick, is there a companion bill in the Senate?
Yes, there is. I do not know the number. It's with Senator Brian Hughes.
Yeah, I was going to ask who the author is.
Yeah, Brian Hughes.
Senator Hughes. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Thanks to all your witnesses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Representative Chair moves to withdraw the committee substitute to HB 4903 and leave the bill pending at this time. Is there any objection? Hearing none, HB 4903 is left pending. All right. Thank you, members and witnesses, for their participation in today's hearing. Is there any business left to be discussed? That concludes our business for today. If there's no objection, the Committee on State Affairs will stand adjourned, subject to call of the chair. Chair has no objection. The Committee on State Affairs is now adjourned.